such reason, we have interpreters. So to follow this event in the language of your preference, please go down in your Zoom screen and you will find a globe. Click on top of it and it will present you the language menu. If you are using a cell phone or iPad, go to the three dots and there you will find the interpretation options too. Thank you very much. Welcome everybody. And now let me introduce the beginning of this session with the words of greetings from the International President of UPF, Dr. Michael Jenkins, who is going to offer the welcoming words. Welcome, Dr. Michael Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Salinas, and thank you to all of those that are watching throughout the world. I want to thank our distinguished leaders and panelists here. This is the International Media Association for Peace, part of the Universal Peace Federation, and we are enjoying the program here called Think Tank 2022, where over the last year we've been gathering experts in the media, business, arts, religion, and also government to collaborate together to find ways to bring peace and reconciliation and the reunification of North and South Korea. Our founder, Dr. Ha-Chan Moon, has initiated this Think Tank 2022, and then we're coming together next week for the World Summit, in which all of the experts throughout the world will be participating. And this program is also part of that World Summit, and the deliberations here will be recorded and submitted as part of the conference. We want to congratulate all the media professionals that are here, because the media plays a key role in helping us understand how to bring peace in Northeast Asia. And I'd also like to thank our chairman and hosts here, Dr. Young, and also Reverend Shin from the Americas, Dr. Kim from Canada, Dr. Faraboli from Brazil, and also Dr. Franco Familaro from Canada. We're from North America. Thank you very much, and may you have a great conference. I give you greetings on behalf of our chairman, Dr. Thomas Walsh. Thank you. Let's have a great session.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Jenkins, for your warm welcome and such words. Let me go on my personal presentation. Sorry, I didn't do that before. So good afternoon, and thank you for joining the International Media Association for Peace IMAP session of the Think Tank 2022 webinar, sponsored by the Universal Peace Federation on the peaceful reunification of Korea. My name is Mario Salinas, and I'm currently serve as the coordinator of IMAP for Central America and the Caribbean region. Be all of you welcome. The International Media Association for Peace, IMAP, recognizes the vital role of journalists play in guarding against totalitarianism and supporting the expansion of freedom. IMAP represents a worldwide professional network of journalists who support a social, responsible, and moral media to convey accurate content, address the challenges of our time based on the highest principles of ethical journalism, while understanding that universal values are key elements of a world of peace. The Forum Think Tank 2022, or Think Tank 2022, is a three-day conference of deliberations on workable solutions by experts representing diverse spheres of human endeavors as part of the World Summit 22. This event is part of a future in few days, like 9 or 7 days, the World Summit 22. We're taking part of such a great, magnificent event, taking place on February 12th to the 14th in Korea. It is over 70 years since the outbreak of the Korean War, and the peoples of North and South Korea remain divided at the 38th parallel. Reverend Sang Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon visited North Korea in November 1991 for a then unimaginable personal meeting with North Korean leader, the great leader Kim Il-sung, in a dramatic effort to initiate reconciliation of the two nations. This IMAP session is part of a larger effort to understand and present the challenges facing the people of North Korea with commitment and hope to achieve lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula. Let me explain the format of this think tank forum. We will have two presenters who will give keywords on the topic of this IMAP session: communication media responsibility in the Asia Pacific. As you know, why matters us? Because we are part of a Pacific Rim. Then each of the panelists will share comments and ask questions, which will be answered by one or both of the presenters. At the end, there will be selected questions from the audience in an open round table. So let me introduce our first magnificent speaker to this forum. I'm talking about Mr. Guy Taylor, who is a national security team leader for the Washington Times. He is an award-winning foreign correspondent, currently overseeing the Times State Department and intelligence community coverage. Mr. Taylor has engaged in extensive international reporting over the past 20 years, from Latin America to the Middle East and the Asia Pacific. So he's an expert. We have an expert voice here. His exhaustive coverage of US policy toward the North Korea crisis has won accolades from across the political spectrum. His reporting on security, political, and economic developments in Mexico won a 2012 Virginia Press Association Award. His reporting on Russia attempts to influence the 2016 US election was recognized with a Gerald R. Ford Journalism Prize for distinguished reporting on the presidency. So we have a person who is look like putting the finger on the wound always. So welcome, Mr. Guy Taylor. The floor is yours.
Hello. Thank you to the Universal Peace Federation and Think Tank 2022, and to the International Media Association for Peace for having me here today. I feel lucky to be with this group of colleagues. I appreciate this kind of international exchange more and more the further I go as a journalist. I have just a few minutes of remarks today on what I believe as a US based, Washington, DC based international affairs journalist who has made many visits to the Asia Pacific and reported extensively on a range of issues in that part of the world, including in Northeast Asia, on issues pertaining to North Korea and China and South Korea and Japan. What I believe to be key pillars of responsibility for both government-sponsored media, but also especially private and nonprofit news media and communications companies in that region of the world, as well as those that cover the region from outside, such as from the United States or from one of the many countries of Latin America. One of the primary pillars is to promote and maintain awareness that free market democratic societies should tolerate and not be intimidated by the presence of a free media space that tolerates political opposition and critical debate or open public criticism of government leadership. Healthy, free market democracies should be promoting and appreciating a healthy amount of freedom in the media space. What I'm talking about specifically are the diverse mix of independent media, of many different political leanings across the print, radio, and television landscapes. Of course, all of it is online in 2022, in the current era. In South Korea, in Japan, with regard to Northeast Asia specifically, and then the Philippines, Indonesia, and others with regard to the rest of the region. Free media in these countries, I believe, has a vital role and really a responsibility to promote an understanding and an appreciation for how very different the media spaces are in China or in North Korea that are controlled tightly by an authoritarian apparatus of the state. It follows that media in democratic societies of the Asia Pacific must continue to retain the right of private ownership and must also promote awareness of propaganda infiltrating the international information space, often masquerading as news. This is propaganda generated and projected by authoritarian, government-controlled or government-owned media, most notably from China, but also very much from North Korea and from Russia. And the pillar of this media freedom I'm talking about, if we can call it the media freedom pillar, this is what separates freedom-loving, freedom-appreciating societies of the Asia Pacific from those that are projecting authoritarianism. And the implications of this are big. They reach well beyond the news media into cultural, artistic, and even the religious space as well. The implications are also increasingly tied to new media spaces. Over the past decade especially, we have seen collective consciousness expressed through social media spaces in totally unprecedented ways among people around the world. Some of these expressions have been unimaginably positive, bringing people together, but some have also been frighteningly negative. I believe we have to embrace social media freedom, and we have to have an open and responsible debate about this new space. That being said, one of the overarching points here is that anyone working in the free media space in the Asia Pacific or anywhere else in the world, frankly, should be aware of and should help promote an awareness of what the alternatives to that free media space are. And the alternatives I'm talking about are authoritarian spaces where no criticism of those in power is tolerated, or where ownership of information, ideas, politics, and culture are concentrated in a very small number of authoritarian hands. Moving towards my conclusion here, the second primary pillar that I want to address in my remarks is the pillar of what I would call conscientiousness. Conscientiousness that I believe the media in the Asia Pacific and anywhere around the world really should have toward civil political discourse. Just because the media space supports freedom and freedom of debate and criticism, that should not be an excuse for crass or base or racist or insulting rhetoric, or an opening for exploitation by radical elements of a given society. This is a point that can be delicate and debatable in a democratic society. But I think, based on my own experience working in the US media now for more than 20 years, I believe that conscientiousness to civil political discourse is a goal that should be pursued by all societies. And it's especially important in democracies, which are notoriously messy, intrinsically prone to political upheaval and rebirth. And they're representative of people as a matter of practice. This is also very critically important now as we debate the concept of normalcy in new media or social media spaces as well. Finally, I'd like to say a few points on what I believe is a need for free media in the Asia Pacific to push for openings of coverage and information and communications, both with China, but also with North Korea. Well, the government of China tolerates a limited presence of foreign media, and we'll see that around the Olympics now here in February of 2022. The government in China has flirted with eradicating that foreign presence in recent years, particularly regarding major U.S. News organizations. And I think everyone should be wary of that and should stand up for the need for foreign media to continue to be allowed to report from inside China, including all over the country, such as in Wuhan, where the COVID-19 pandemic is believed to have begun, but also in Xinjiang, where the US government has accused Chinese authorities of genocide against Muslims and ethnic minorities. Beijing claims that these accusations are baseless. Well, it should allow outside journalists to go in to those areas and talk to people. With regard to North Korea, the whole world might benefit from more coordination among free media companies, not only from the Asia Pacific, but also from the West, that could be working more effectively together to petition the North Korean government to hold conferences, inviting foreign media into the country, if only to create a basic opening for on-the-ground coverage, as well as some civil society dialogue between Pyongyang and the rest of the world that really has been stifled in recent years. This could come in the form of a film festival. There could be a media festival, some kind of conference that is not necessarily overtly political. I know this might sound like a lofty idea or controversial to some, but it's something that we can hope for. In the interim, media outlets should do more to cover the flow of information into and out of North Korea via digital communications and other means, and to cover the debate about restrictions being placed on those flows of information. We can reflect on this idea of collective consciousness. It's pretty mind-boggling if you think of how different the collective consciousness is in North Korea from South Korea, and how the reason for that difference is really rooted in the fact that in South Korea, there's a free media space, and in North Korea, there's a lack of a free media space. I'm going to conclude now by just saying how much I appreciate the free media space in the Asia Pacific, where it does exist, how much I and others in the US media, I know for sure, really rely upon free English language streams of information that do exist in the region, especially those emanating from South Korea. And I'm very excited about the prospect, hopefully soon, of being able to travel normally and regularly to the region. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to hear from my other colleagues on the panel.
Wonderful. Thank you for your magnificent words, your message, and also bringing up that, I will say, maybe new concept of consciousness, or the word you put it, it's like trying to work, and some ideas should be taken about doing events for journalism, or little events in North Korea or in China, to show a goodwill to do better thing for the world. Thank you so much, Guy, for your words. Now let me introduce our second presenter, which I think is going to match perfectly with Mr. Taylor's exposition. And I'm talking about a wonderful, beautiful lady from Brazil. The women power is here, represented, which is great for us. I love that. When I got excited with, we start getting some names, women name leading media in South America and Latin America. So let me talk about Liliana Gonçalves. She is a Brazilian journalist, director, producer, and host of UPTV or UPTV. She worked for 10 years as a producer and coordinator responsible for the entire production team of the interaction program broadcast by NET on Channel 12 Net Cidade. net city, something like that. In 2008, she became director together with her husband, Lucky Ravanelli, at Radio UPTV again. After his death on 2011, Liliana alone assumed the general management of a broadcasting company with the great responsibility and mission of continuing the UPTV project. And her message I received in advance has a title, In Search of a New Era of Peace, Union, and Reconciliation. Welcome, Liliana. The floor, the microphone, the voice is yours.
Muito obrigada. Olá, sinto-me muito, muito honrada pelo convite, pela Federação da Paz Universal, a UPF, em particular aí como participar aí como palestrante, embaixadora da paz, neste Fórum Internacional, o Think Tank 2022, e quero cumprimentar o moderador, senhor Mário Salinas, a todos os painelistas de hoje que participam, né, deste fórum, ao meu colega de mídia, palestrante, Gui Taylor, que esteve falando brilhantemente, da equipe de jornalistas de Washington Times. E eu sou Liliana Gonçalves, sou jornalista já completando 23 anos, né, de carreira, CEO da emissora UPTV Web Channel aqui no Brasil. Eu venho realizando já há mais de 14 anos a direção de mais de 20 programas, TVs, lives, produção de webséries, tendo sempre como destaque a produção aí de matérias, coberturas jornalísticas, entrevistas e reportagens para o programa jornalístico Up News. É um programa com transmissão ao vivo para o mundo todo. Eu tenho como missão nesse programa levar a melhor informação, conhecimento, conteúdo de qualidade, buscar fatos e acontecimentos, notícias mais importantes da atualidade, seja elas nacionais ou internacionais, através de pesquisas, sugestões de pautas que nós recebemos pelos nossos correspondentes espalhados pelo mundo, que se conectam diversos países, diversos idiomas e todas as partes do mundo. Uma conexão direta com o mundo, onde não há espaço para desinformação jamais, fake news e nem sensacionalismo. Um trabalho muito sério, um trabalho profissional, feito com muita verdade, com muita ética e principalmente paixão. Como embaixadora da paz e representante das mídias aqui no Brasil, a minha responsabilidade é ainda maior, especialmente nesta questão da pacificação na Península Coreana, tema que estamos aí, especialmente nessa questão que estamos realizando hoje nesse fundo. Um assunto que nos chama muita atenção, provocando muitas reflexões, discussões, pois estamos falando de vidas, de famílias separadas por conflitos e tantos sonhos interrompidos. Um histórico que se estende há mais de 70 anos, um sistema onde são aplicadas as leis rígidas de restrições a qualquer ato de liberdade. Sair ou fugir é quase impossível, estando os cidadãos sempre sujeitos a trabalhos forçados, a violência constante, o uso de armas nucleares, bombardeios, enfim, uma das ditaduras mais difíceis desse planeta. E, sem dúvida, a questão mais complexa é a supressão das liberdades, não só de ir e vir, mas também a liberdade de crença, opção política, de trabalho, moradia e, principalmente, de imprensa. E se alguém não se coaduna com o sistema ou não segue as regras, paga muitas vezes com a própria vida. A Península Coreana, assim como todo mundo, necessita de liberdade, necessita de esperança, necessita de paz. Eu vejo a importância desse fórum como uma plataforma de mídia para desenvolver a consciência e a construção de uma visão global da unificação coreana. E acredito que com o esforço ativo de todos os líderes mundiais, com a força que nós temos na mídia, de exercer princípios, né, a conexão com o mundo, e com o movimento de toda a sociedade civil em torno dos princípios comuns, será significativo demais para o futuro da Península Coreana. E com isso, poderemos sim vencer esse grande desafio que é promover o diálogo, discussões, debates, encontros, reconstruir as relações e as linhas de comunicação, abrindo assim caminhos para o fim da guerra, para a restauração de um acordo realmente efetivo de paz e para a reunificação dos povos Norte e Sul. Uma nova era de paz, união e reconciliação. Este encontro é para questionarmos também, especialmente, qual o nosso papel como mídia diante disso. É entender que realmente agora chegou o momento de caminharmos juntos a favor da paz, da união e da liberdade. Principalmente neste momento difícil que todos nós passamos devido à pandemia do Covid-19 e todas as suas variantes, causando tantos conflitos políticos, socioeconômicos, perdas, sofrimento. Essa crise mundial transformou o mundo, com certeza. Ela intensificou ainda mais o olhar para o futuro, dando espaço para o humanismo, a solidariedade fraterna e o desenvolvimento das relações humanas, resgatando a importância da família, da fé e a valorização das pessoas como seres humanos. Para algumas nações, manter acordos de paz pode custar mais do que viver anos em guerra. Eu proponho hoje, a partir de hoje, neste encontro, que nós façamos uma corrente do bem e oremos para que os líderes coreanos consigam enxergar uma nova perspectiva para as questões diplomáticas, para que haja uma solução permanente das diferenças e conflitos globais e também uma generosidade contínua na prestação da assistência humanitária aos necessitados, com um olhar diferente para o mundo. O mundo necessita de novos paradigmas para a reconciliação e a Coreia, mais ainda, necessita de novos paradigmas para a construção da paz. Eu quero lembrar o lema não oficial da educação da Coreia do Sul, chamado Hongik-in, que significa viver para o bem maior de toda a humanidade, uma verdadeira base do que Tangun, o ancestral do povo coreano, chamava de sonho coreano, sendo uma nova oportunidade para os coreanos assumirem o controle de seu próprio destino e criarem uma nova nação. Esse ideal sempre foi um princípio orientador ao longo da tumultuada história da Coreia, em períodos de crise e renovação. Hongik-in também representa o DNA cultural e permite que os coreanos de todas as gerações se conectem a essa herança que define esse legado futuro. Compreensivelmente, o ideal de Hongik-in foi um ideal motivador para o movimento da independência da Coreia, que procurou criar uma nova república das cinzas da dinastia Joseon. Isso moldou a inspiração dos líderes da independência de querer mais do que apenas a liberdade da ocupação colonial japonesa. Eles acreditavam que era seu destino criar uma nação ideal, que seria um exemplo para o resto do mundo, com base nesse princípio de viver para o bem maior. O que, traduzido para a linguagem atual da UPF, é a interdependência, a prosperidade mútua e os valores universais compartilhados. Hoje, nós estamos aqui em um ponto semelhante da história, pois o mundo corretamente considera o governo norte-coreano e o regime de Kim e o programa nuclear norte-coreano como um alarme e profunda suspeita. Podemos ver que o norte se encontra longe da visão de Hongik-in, que por tanto tempo sustentou o povo coreano. Na visita, vocês podem lembrar da visita do Papa Francisco à Coreia. Ele pediu a todos que orassem pela reunificação da Península Coreana, dizendo que eles deveriam ter como meta se reunir como uma única família, sem vencedores ou vencidos. Diz ele, somos irmãos que falam a mesma língua. E quando se fala a mesma língua em família, há uma esperança humana. O perdão é a porta que nos leva à reconciliação. Aquilo que, de uma perspectiva humana, parece às vezes ser impossível, intransponível e mesmo às vezes repulsivo, Deus vai lá e torna possível. E é claro, não posso deixar de mencionar o incansável trabalho da doutora Moon, conhecida como a Mãe da Paz, que tem lutado juntamente com seu esposo para uma solução pacífica na reunificação da sua terra natal, a Coreia. Vamos orar, vamos nos unir, vamos promover a paz tão desejada e, principalmente, vamos fortalecer a nossa fé para que haja transformação no coração dos líderes mundiais e que juntos possamos mudar o curso da nossa vida e da nossa história. O meu compromisso hoje era de transmitir uma mensagem de paz e esperança a todos vocês. E eu me sinto com o dever cumprido. Que Deus nos abençoe e nos acompanhe nessa jornada rumo a uma Coreia mais livre e unificada. Agradeço ao UPF e a todos por me permitir fazer parte desse grandioso evento. Desejo que a paz reine no coração de cada ser humano. E eu estarei compartilhando e propagando esse evento a toda a rede nacional e internacional da UPTV Web Channel. Nós estamos ao vivo transmitindo esse evento nesse momento. Todas as mídias parceiras e também junto a toda a nossa equipe de jornalistas e correspondentes espalhadas pelo mundo todo, para que possamos fazer a nossa grande diferença. Gratidão a todos.
Fabulous, wonderful, amazing. I can bring out as topics very important that also make sense to bring consideration to the years of our, director from UPF, or Dr. Yang, who is here, and Reverend Chin, who is here, to understand that from afar, such as we are, we understand the ancient culture of Korea and how we know they have real tools to do reunification with our support, and to let them know that we know what kind of nations they are. I am so impressed. Also, I appreciate the idea that you are not making room in your media for fake news and those kind of things, but you are responsibly looking for information that is based on truth and facts and events. And more wonderful that you are just now transmitting or broadcasting this event in your media. And this is a plus, an incredible plus that we all applaud from our place, from our side. Thank you so much. So now, let me go to our next part of the forum. We need to see if, I don't know if Mr. Fernando did already, but we have, before we have the panelists, who are joining us. And so we have Miss Yesenia Cortez was one of our panelists, but she reported she had some difficulties in the Wi-Fi and connections and everything, so she couldn't do it. I understand Mr. Fernando is trying to join us. So, Mr. Fernando is here. So, bienvenido, welcome, Dr. Fernando Lopez to this forum. So,
I think that Mr. Lopez is still in an interpreter booth. Can you speak, Mr. Lopez?
Mr. Fernando, usted entró en la cabina de interpretación. Sería bueno que saliera y volviera a entrar. Is that it, Kaylee?
You can hear him if you turn on Portuguese.
Oh, I see. Well,
he's in.
Vamos a tratar de mover a don Fernando. Okay, we're going to try to move don Fernando from the room where he is to go into the panelist room. So let's our technical people to do that part of the work. Let's go on the conference in the forum. So, so before introducing the panelists, I would like to show the idea is that the panelists are following the presenters, and they are going to do some comments from their sides, and also add something in 2 or 3 minutes, and also ask a question to the presenters if that is if you are interested in extra explanations about. So before that, I would like, before starting your commentaries, I would like to put in the minds of our speakers and the panelists as a moderator, 3 questions which summarizes the questions from the public and from our side of the world. One is that a few years ago, being part of discussing the Asia Pacific thing, where Korea is, of course, and we are in such waters. A few years ago, there was a strong approach from China in Central America to build a water canal in Nicaragua or a dry canal in other nations of Central America, but then suddenly it stopped it. So for those journalists who know something, what happened that they didn't go forward, because they wanted to do something like a competition for the Panama Channel. But now, number 2, since we are talking about the Asia Pacific, why is it that the alliance of the Pacific with countries as Chile, Peru, Colombia, and Mexico held just 4 days ago its 16th summit, welcoming Singapore as a new incorporate allied, and Ecuador just signed as invited to be incorporated fully in the next summit. And 3, what would you say about the strong presence and investments of China in both ends of the Panama Canal, including this investment for a new widening of the Panama Canal itself? So now let me introduce then from Guatemala as a panelist, periodista, journalist, Fernando Lopez, former director of diffusion of the Arts and Sports Office of the Ministry of Culture of Guatemala. And from Peru, journalist Ángel Sánchez, president of the Federation Journalists of Peru, and Secretary General of IMAP in Peru, and he also carries a long term of service as journalist, and also being member of several organizations with so much impact in South America and other parts of the world. Welcome to the floor, and I give the word to Mr. Fernando Lopez to share his vision to this forum.
Gracias, Mario. Gracias a la UPF por esta oportunidad. Y pues desde Guatemala un saludo muy especial a todos, y definitivamente pues es una gran responsabilidad la que tenemos los comunicadores sociales de darle buen uso a las plataformas que tenemos como medios de comunicación, tanto radio, televisión, prensa. Creo que son cosas que ya se han dicho, pero que no está de más remarcarlas, porque de esta manera tenemos una gran oportunidad como centroamericanos o como americanos de poder aportarle a esta necesidad tan grande que tiene la gente de Corea del Norte y de Corea del Sur de unificarse para encontrarse después de aquellos conflictos que generaron la separación de las familias que no han podido estar juntos, aunque se ha hecho mucho trabajo desde la década de los 70s y 80s, han venido con mucho trabajo, arduo trabajo para que pues esta unificación se dé, pero en especial la unificación de las familias. Sabemos que todos tenemos derecho a vivir de mejor forma, de tener libertad, de poder expresarnos, de poder tener oportunidades tanto de preparación como oportunidades de poder laborar, y de esta manera pues llegar a pues ser personas mejores, que dejemos en este mundo una huella especial y que no pasemos desapercibidos. Ya mis antecesores han dicho muchas de estas cosas, pero creo que son las cosas que nosotros como comunicadores tenemos que trasladarle a nuestros pueblos y a las personas encargadas de poder ejecutar esta unificación, que en algún momento podamos nosotros decir, pues aportamos un granito de arena hablando acerca de esto a nuestros pueblos, se logra la unificación de las dos Coreas, y el think tank creo que es una herramienta muy, muy especial que debemos pues aprovechar y debemos difundir y debemos informarle a la gente qué es el think tank y por qué se está dando y cuál es el objetivo final. Y ese objetivo de lograr la unificación de las dos Coreas definitivamente va a ser un gran logro para la humanidad, un gran logro para los pueblos tanto de Corea del Norte como Corea del Sur, pero en especial para esas familias que se han visto damnificadas, separadas y privadas de su libertad, de su comunicación, de el poder estar juntos. Vemos que pues cada año mueren aproximadamente 3,000 personas de estas familias que han estado separadas y quizás se fueron sin un adiós, se fueron sin poder ver nuevamente a sus padres, a sus hermanos, a sus tíos, a sus abuelos, gente que pues es muy especial para cada uno de ellos, pero que debido al conflicto pues no han podido estar cerca, estar compartiendo con cada uno de ellos. Va a ser lindo cuando digamos acá en el paralelo 38 ya no hay militarización, o lo que se quería hacer, la desmilitarización, que al final pues no se dio así, sino que fue un área más invadida, más controlada y que definitivamente privó a todas estas familias. Y los medios de comunicación tenemos que darle seguimiento a cada uno de estos logros, por muy pequeños que sean, pero que sean logros que van alcanzando los avances para lograr la tan anhelada unificación de las Coreas, que por supuesto ya no sea solo anhelada para los hermanos coreanos del norte o del sur, sino que sea anhelada para todos los que hemos tenido la oportunidad de conocer, de involucrarnos y de educar a nuestras audiencias con información que les permita pues conocer el porqué de estos conflictos. Definitivamente todos esos temas son nuestra responsabilidad informarlo a nuestros auditorios y pues también creo yo que nos va a quedar una satisfacción personal cuando por fin podamos decir la unificación de Corea se ha dado. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Don Fernando Lopez. Thank you so much, Mr. Fernando Lopez, for your words. And I would like to ask you a question, considering that you are from Guatemala, and I know that Guatemala is a country built from 24 different Mayan nations, and they have their different, each one, they have a language, and also they have a special tradition. What can Guatemala share with Korean people that they have only one language and only one history, but then in Guatemala we have 24 languages and 24 cultures living together, and they have a concept of a nation, but they have become and believing after even having a civil war, have a peace process that how can we use this experience from Guatemala for the benefit of the world and Korea. In the meantime, let me go to Mr. Angel Sanchez, as I said, who is president of the Federation of Regionalists in Peru and General Secretary of IMAP for that country. And he has an excellent career, and also he has his words of comments for this forum. Welcome, Mr. Sanchez. Take the floor, please.
Muchas gracias, Mario, por esta oportunidad de poder comentar, sobre todo en la realización de este TINTAC 2022, pero no sin antes saludar y felicitar la labor que está haciendo la doctora Tan Yang Han Moon por lograr alcanzar la unificación pacífica de Corea del Sur y de Corea del Norte. Definitivamente uno de los factores muy importantes para poder lograr este objetivo es que exista la libertad de prensa y la libertad de expresión. Sabemos muy bien que ese es uno de los grandes limitantes para Corea del Norte, el no poder conocer cómo es que se está desarrollando el mundo en forma normal y regular. las limitaciones de las comunicaciones y de la información es uno de los factores que justamente hace que la población en esta localidad no tenga pues un conocimiento adecuado de cuáles son los avances y los esfuerzos que se están haciendo no solamente para la unificación, sino sobre todo para también el desarme que tiene que haber en la península. Es uno de los factores muy importantes, no solamente para las dos Coreas, sino para el mundo entero, lograr alcanzar de que esta península tenga una tranquilidad pacífica, una unificación adecuada y sobre todo también que a través de las diferentes instancias de los medios de comunicación también haya un intercambio cultural, que el mundo conozca adecuadamente cuáles son los pensamientos y cuáles son las formas de la sociedad que se vive en esta península, especialmente en la de Corea del Norte, que muy poca información nosotros conocemos, y que a su vez también entiendan al resto del mundo cuál es el pensamiento que existe. Uno de los factores principales para poder lograr y mantener la democracia son los dos pilares que lo sostienen, la libertad de prensa y la libertad de expresión. Y en ese sentido nosotros tenemos que volcar nuestras miradas no solamente a los lugares donde están restringidas estas libertades, sino en los otros países donde sí está institucionalizado, pero que existe un gran riesgo de poder perderla. Estas regiones, principalmente la de Latinoamérica, es uno de las zonas en las cuales hay un alto riesgo de que la libertad de prensa y la libertad de expresión se vean limitados en la medida de que vayan avanzando algunos pensamientos justamente de la instauración de gobiernos totalitarios, de gobiernos procomunistas, como es el caso que se ha dado tanto en Venezuela y como el que se ha dado en Bolivia, y que el Perú se encuentra justamente en ese límite de poder traspasar esa barrera en el cual la libertad de prensa y la libertad de expresión pues se pueda perder de una forma bastante sustancial. Hemos visto cómo en Bolivia, argumentando la libertad de prensa y la libertad de expresión, se le dio mucha fortaleza a los medios comunitarios, que de igual forma se quieren hacer acá en el Perú, pero en Bolivia se utilizó los medios comunitarios como un órgano de movilización del gobierno para lograr el apoyo y el respaldo de los medios de comunicación. Uno de los grandes limitantes para que exista una verdadera libertad de prensa es justamente el financiamiento, la publicidad. Y en Latinoamérica y en el Perú, uno de los principales, fondos que salen para financiar a los medios de comunicación proceden del Estado. Y esto hace de que los gobernantes presionen a los medios de comunicación libres para que bajen su temperamento, su temperatura con respecto a la fiscalización que hacen con la gestión de los gobernantes. Y esto hace que justamente la libertad de prensa no trabaje libremente y tenga justamente estos factores de presión por parte de los gobiernos y por parte justamente de los gobernantes, que son muchas veces muy poco afectos a este tipo de fiscalización. Una de los factores que debemos nosotros procurar es que para poder lograr no solamente que exista una verdadera libertad de prensa en Corea del Norte, tenemos que asegurar también que en el resto del mundo y en Latinoamérica exista una plenitud de estas libertades y sobre todo la de prensa y la de expresión. Y en ese sentido yo quiero hacerles de repente una reflexión o una pregunta a nuestros expositores y a los panelistas en general, es de que veamos la forma, cuál es la forma de poder asegurar que exista una verdadera libertad de prensa y una verdadera libertad de expresión en el resto del mundo y en las diferentes regiones del hemisferio. Muchas gracias.
Wonderful. Good. I really appreciate the words from Mr. Ángel Sánchez, showing his experience, not only in Peru, but also knowing other nations and having the capacity to say the word, what is really happening in other nations, and this is a kind of influence that is coming over some other nations about the free press and the free expression. Now I invite all of you to have a round table, asking the technicians to open the screens so we can share and explain, so you can raise your hand and you will allow the word in the few minutes that we still have to talk about. You choose. Okay, Taylor.
Hi,
Please,
yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, I was really struck by the presentation of my colleagues. Really appreciated everybody's different perspectives. And I thought that Angel Sanchez's question at the end is really, it's an amazing question, because it's on everyone's mind, I think. And I have my own personal view, which is that the freedom of speech and ideas, this is something that has been around in different organizations of people since the beginning of time. This idea that, you know, people would fight for, you know, there have been periods where there's less of it. There have been periods when there's more. But the idea that people would fight for the freedom to have their own ideas and their ability to say what they want and challenge leadership and change leadership and things like this. I personally view that freedom in today's world, this media freedom, as almost like a flame. And it's like a flame that has to be nurtured by the storytellers, by the communicators. I think it might have been Fernando that brought up communicators. This idea that we're communicators, we're storytellers, we as journalists, even in pursuing fact-based journalism, we have to be the ones that facilitate an ongoing conversation, a civil society conversation. And the only way to ensure that there is freedom of speech or free media is to have this communication. Events like this event that we're participating in right now today, and events like it, really, that in this way that flame can be nurtured, so to speak, and that people in positions of power, great power, whether it's in private sector companies or in governments, that these people will then be aware of the meaning that this free media space has for people. And I think that you constantly will have this kind of give and take about it. But my view on it is that it has to be nurtured, and the way to nurture it is to have public discourse about it and treat it as a respected thing. That's it.
Great. Someone else? You can take the word, please. If you want to add something.
Ok, quisiera, si puedo, Mario.
Por favor, don Fernando.
Ok, pues bueno, contestar la pregunta que se me hacía cuando terminaba yo mi alocución con referencia a las 24 idiomas que se hablan en Guatemala. Definitivamente Guatemala pues ha sido uno de los países con mayores conflictos entre poblaciones debido a que pues 24 formas diferentes de pensar, ¿verdad? Entonces esto definitivamente ha traído una serie de conflictos que hasta incluso recientemente hay un conflicto en un pequeño pueblo de Nahualá, y que de alguna manera pues las autoridades han logrado ir tratando de resolver, porque no se ha resuelto del todo. Pero si vemos un conflicto en este siglo, pues definitivamente no estamos muy lejos de lo que se da en el mundo, porque cada quien tiene su manera de pensar y cada quien quiere lograr sus objetivos. Pero si nos damos cuenta y vamos más allá, Guatemala ha venido resolviendo conflictos toda la vida y afortunadamente logramos 18 millones de guatemaltecos vivir en cierta armonía que se ha ido alcanzando de a poco. Difícil, pero se ha ido logrando. Entonces, de tal forma que tenemos un país con 108,000 kilómetros cuadrados, donde convivimos con 24 formas diferentes de pensar, pero ahí va el país, de a poco saliendo adelante, trabajando, y creo yo que esto incluso también responde un poco a la pregunta del amigo de Perú, el periodista Ángel Sánchez, ¿qué hacer? ¿Cómo se ha logrado o cómo se pueden lograr todo este tipo de soluciones a los conflictos? Y es aplicándole a la tolerancia, aplicándole al trabajo arduo, aplicándole a hacer cada uno lo que nos corresponde hacer para poder sacar adelante a nuestros países. Y creo yo que cuando hay entendimiento de que cada uno tenemos derechos y que nuestros derechos terminan donde empieza el derecho de los demás, pues allí logramos un poco de paz, que por supuesto es lo que todos los seres humanos anhelamos. Aplicarle a la tolerancia creo yo que es una buena forma de poder resolver todos los conflictos que podamos tener, incluso hasta los familiares que pues también se dan en nuestros hogares, no digamos en nuestras comunidades, y por supuesto en los países que pues estamos representando nosotros y al que estamos queriendo también aportarle en esta ocasión, que es a la unificación de las Coreas. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fernando. I think you are putting very interesting words. We have a couple of minutes, so we can have other participations, or you can take the time to say your final words and considerations to this forum. Liliana, we would like to have some words from you.
A gente ouve, né, todas as pessoas falando sobre essa liberdade de imprensa, liberdade de mídia, e ao mesmo tempo eu fico feliz de morar no Brasil, porque aqui a gente, graças a Deus, ainda a gente não, né, nós não temos essa, ao contrário da Coreia, da África e outros países aí que utilizam muito da censura, né, de jornalistas e em outros países do mundo inteiro, inclusive proibição aí de mídias independentes ou jornalistas, né, que queiram trazer notícias de outros países. E eu queria saber, né, de algum de vocês, como é que vocês enxergam essa questão da censura, né? Até que ponto que isso vocês têm a visão do que é importante para o jornalista, sendo que a gente já viu aí muitos jornalistas, inclusive, sendo presos, né, por estarem trazendo a sua liberdade de expressão e tudo mais. Então, eu queria saber levantar essa questão da censura. Como é que vocês enxergam isso? Se alguém quiser estar levantando essa questão, eu acho muito importante também.
Okay. Thank you so much for your participation. And yeah, we have so many challenges. You are journalists in the field. You know that there are many issues to solve. But also, once we go through these ideas that are shedding from the different forums, we are dealing with chief of states, parliamentarians, scientists, art, religious people, and journalists. I think all these things put together will create a new big flame, as Mr. Taylor has pointed. And so we are going to go, of course, Mr. Lopez talked about tolerance. This is something that is also talked among the politician work, among the interreligious people, and so forth. So I think we are going on a boat that is guiding us to benefit. Not only it's just benefiting now through the the spreading of these events to all the people who is watching us, who is viewing this event, they are also learning about and taking notes, and also trying to do something on their fields like teaching, working, managing companies. All of those things are going to be implemented. I can say so. So thank you so much for all your supports, for all your activity in this event, and please be open to news to participate in the next other forums for tomorrow, and also be open to any news about the World Summit that is going to run in few days, like maybe in 10 days or so. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.
Feliz día, gracias por la oportunidad. Bendiciones a todos.
Thank you.
Gracias, muchas gracias. Obrigado,
Gracias,
Liliana.
Dr.
Obrigado.
Jan. Gracias,
Obrigada.
Mr. Faraboli.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you,
Gracias,
Brother
Mario.
Chin.
Thank you.